Hello everybody. Hope you're having a fantastic day today. Today's video, we're going to be going through all of the mods that I have made so far to my Indian Scout. Alright, so jumping into it, I'm not going to be going through this list in any particular order, so check the description down below for the timestamps if there is a specific mod that you are interested in learning a little bit more about. Now, in general, this is going to be a very quick, high-level overview of the mods I made, my thought process on why did I choose these mods, and would I do these mods again if I was to rebuild my bike or get a new bike or whatever. So if you're trying to figure out what mods should you do for your Scout, this might help you. Everybody has different needs and tastes and style aesthetics that they like, so by no means is what I have done the standard. I'm just a guy on the internet who bought the bike and would love to experiment and just figuring things out for myself and just testing things out and just seeing what worked and what didn't work and just having fun with it. So by no means am I an expert on this. I'm just someone who tried things out and I'm just sharing my experiences. So don't read too much into this. So jumping off, we're going to cover all of the products from Dean Speed. If you've been following my channel for some time, you know I am a huge fan of Dean Speed, and I highly recommend their products. If you are considering getting some Dean Speed products, I do highly recommend go check them out, and if you do find something you like, don't forget to use code VALORCYCLE to get 5% off your entire purchase. So starting off with the exhaust, the Rampage exhaust. I love this exhaust. I got some buddies who have it. I see it all the time on Instagram, on other Scouts. It's a very popular exhaust, and for good reason. It sounds phenomenal. I personally choose to run the baffles in the exhaust because without them, with the straight pipes, they are fairly loud. And I want to be respectful to my neighbors, and when I'm riding, I want to be able to hear the music I'm playing, hear everything else around me, hear the wind, hear any sirens if there are any. And the exhaust is a little bit too loud for me personally without the baffles, so it's a personal preference, so I choose to run the baffles in the exhaust. The sissy bar comes in handy so often. I strap my backpack to it. I've strapped dog food to it. I went to the store the other day and bought a 20-pound bag of dog food, strapped it to the sissy bar. It's come in handy so often. Just strap everything down. It's rock solid, high quality, looks fantastic, and it gives Tiny Tater a way to rest her back, something to lean on when she goes on the bike with me. So highly recommend the sissy bar, and I do have the 6-pack rack on it, which I'm a huge fan of. The crash guards, they're there to protect the bike. I have not dropped the bike, so I can't really say for sure how well these crash guards work. But from what I've seen from other people, they do work really well. Super easy to install. And they look good compared to some other safety gear on the bike. It kind of ruins some of the aesthetic. So for these crash guards, they fit in really well with the bike. And last, but certainly not least from the Dean Speed lineup, the most recent mod I've made is the 14-inch Shrugger handlebars. I've been loving these handlebars. These are fantastic bars. Easy to install. Just had to reroute a few wires, install a new clutch, which I'll talk about later. But these handlebars are phenomenal. Great quality. They look fantastic. Gotten a ton of compliments on them, to be honest. And I'm kind of surprised I like them as much as I do. Like, I figured I would like them, but I'm surprised about how much I like all of these Dean Speed products. So once again, check out Dean Speed. Highly recommend them. For all of these products, if I had a new Scout and I was going to rebuild it or mod it again, I would get everything from Dean Speed once again. No question in my mind. Definitely get the exhaust. The only changes I would possibly make is maybe some of the different styles. So I might get a different style of sissy bar, might get a different style of handlebar, but really that's about it. I would wholeheartedly buy everything again. Next, jumping into the headlight. So I think this was actually the first mod I ever made to the Scout, was swapping out the headlight. So this is the Hogworkz headlight. It is super bright, love how it looks. Install couldn't be easier, literally just unplugging the old one, plugging the new one in, and getting the screw and the bracket back in. So it is incredibly easy to install. It looks fantastic, super bright, which is great for nighttime riding, as well as if you're just riding throughout the day, it helps you be seen. So it's also great from a safety standpoint as well. Next, talking about the custom dynamics turn signals. So just like the headlight, these are super, super bright, very easy to install. And with the headlight and with these turn signals, I would definitely buy them again. They look fantastic, very bright, so great for safety, great for seeing, and they really alert other people, other riders, other cars about where you are. So it does help grab their attention. So huge fan of these, really like these, and I would definitely buy each of these once again. Now, moving on to the Radiantz tail light and license plate holder. So this replaced the tail end, the rear fender. This replaced that whole module that previously had the taillights on there. So it kind of condensed it down into a very, very sleek bar that just hangs right under the rear fender. And I think it looks really nice. It's bright, it blinks, it does what it's meant to do, and it really slims down the tail end of the bike. My only possible concern with this is it is sagging. You can kind of see it in the picture when I installed it. It was flush with the fender, and now it is sagging a bit, and the license plate is a little bit loose, so not sure if it's just something where I have to tighten up the screws once again, or if this is a very common thing, but just something to be aware about. I don't know if I would purchase this again, to be honest. I do like it, and I am glad I bought it, but if I was to do it all again, is it really worth it? I don't know. That might be up to you. But obviously, now that it's all said and done, I don't regret it. But different people have different tastes, and not everyone might like this. I can definitely see the standpoint of someone not being able to see when I am turning. So if I have my indicators on, if they're looking from behind me, they may not see it. I can definitely see that argument. I think they're bright enough to where they grab enough attention, so where you would notice it. But, you know, not everyone's always observant, not everyone's always paying attention, so that may be something to consider. Moving on to the Memphis Shades Cafe Fairing. This was probably the second mod I made to the Scout, and I did buy the turn signal replacement kit, the trigger lock mounting system, as well as obviously the fairing. And I am a huge fan of this fairing, the whole system, turn signal relocator, everything. Huge fan. Definitely would buy it again, no questions asked. The only difference I might make in the future is I might consider buying a Road Warrior, because that might help more with that would help more with the wind versus the cafe fairing, which does a little bit of wind resistance, but really not that much, especially for someone of my size. I'm 6'3". So the cafe fairing really doesn't do much for wind resistance, whereas the Road Warrior would. And with all of the other changes now that I've made to the bike, namely the handlebars, the Road Warrior might actually look a little bit better compared to the cafe fairing, but again, that's personal preference. Not that I have any buyer's remorse with the cafe fairing at all. I am still very happy with it. But if I was to do it all over again, I'd probably just buy a different fairing, knowing where I am now and lessons learned. The Memphis Shades trigger lock system and the turn signal relocation, it's rock solid. I take the fairing on and off all the time whenever I'm doing maintenance on the bike. Super easy to install and take off, so highly recommend it there. For the wheels, I was due for a change, and for an aesthetic change as well, I went with the Metzeler Marathon Ultra 888s, and I'm happy with these. White walls are a pain to clean and maintain, but overall, I'm happy with the tires. I'm happy with the performance. I don't know if these really count as a mod, but I'm just including everything that I've changed on the bike. So I'm happy with them. And do I like them more than the Night Dragons that come stock with the Scout? I don't know. It's really a balance between aesthetic and performance. Aesthetically, I do like these a lot more, but in terms of performance, I think I would give the edge to the Night Dragons. Again, I don't have a terrible amount of experience comparing different types of tires. This is the first bike I've ever changed tires on, and so I have some level of comparison, but I wouldn't say I have an extensive amount of experience to be able to really give an in-depth review and perspective. So just from my understanding, I think the Night Dragons are better on performance, but I do like the aesthetic of the Metzeler Marathon Ultra 888. So it's a balance between performance and aesthetic. So go with what you like. Moving up to the handlebars, we got the Trip Machine wraps. I'm very happy with these. I'm surprised at how well these have held up over time. These look fantastic. I haven't had any issues with them. They're great for absorbing some of the vibration from the bike, and there is a lot of vibration from the bike, don't get me wrong. So I'm very happy with these. These do a great job. These have held up over time. My main stipulation with this is the shipping time. It took forever to get these wraps, and installation is pretty easy. The quality is there. They hold up well. They look great. They look nice. So really, it's just getting your hands on them, I think, is the hardest part. So now, would I buy these wraps again? I don't know. If you're okay with the shipping time, then yeah, it might work out for you. But if you need grips, I would say go to Radzilla, Amazon, wherever, buy your grips there and install them. I just have these wraps around the stock grips, and they're still holding up well for me. So that's all it is there. The Barnett clutch cables. So once I installed the new handlebars, I did have to get a extended clutch cable, and I did get a Barnett clutch cable from Dean Speed. So they do hold other products from other vendors as well. So I was also able to capitalize on that discount. So if you need a new brake line or if you need a new clutch cable, you can go to Dean Speed and get everything there. I've been very happy with the Barnett clutch cable. Feels rock solid, easy to install. No issues there. It reaches. it is what it is. It's a great clutch cable. Had no issues with it so far. So pretty straight and easy. Would I get it again? Yeah, because I needed to. Is it better than stock? I think it's a bit stronger, to be honest. It does need a little bit more force to pull it in, but it does feel more secure. It does feel like it is a stronger clutch cable. So for the gas cap, I replaced the stock gas cap with this one because I replaced my ignition system with a keyless ignition. So I did not want to have to carry a key everywhere I went just to unlock the gas cap. So I swapped it with this one. So this one does not need a key. I'm okay with this, to be honest. I have to leave one of the screws undone so it creates a vent hole, because when I had all of the screws in there, it actually pressurized the gas tank, which is not a good thing, obviously. You do not want your gas tank to be pressurized so much. It got to the point where I tried to take off the gas cap and it almost kind of lifted off on its own once I released it. It didn't shoot off, but you could definitely tell there was pressure there. And it was kind of like, when you have a water bottle and you twist it and then you take off the cap really quickly and the cap kind of shoots off. Similar to that. So I left one of the screws off so that way it has a way to vent when pressure does build up in there. And honestly, I'm not too crazy about that. I'd rather have all the screws in and have it all be perfectly fine. But it works. It's functional. It does mess with the angle of which I have to fill up the gas tank a little bit. It has to be more top down. I can't really get away with doing it at the side at all. So it is what it is. Would I buy this again? I don't know. I might buy a different gas cap or do some more research there. But it works. It's functional. It looks nice. And I don't need the key anymore, which is really why I bought it in the first place. Moving on to the dawg keyless ignition system. Now this came with a GPS system as well as a starter lockout system. I did not end up installing the starter lockout system because for the type of riding I'm doing, I don't really need it. And honestly, I'm not so confident in my ability to splice the correct wires. I just didn't want to risk it. So I did not install the starter lockout module, but I did install the keyless ignition system as well as the GPS system. Now the keyless ignition system, that works great. Super happy with it. Installing it was a bit tricky, especially doing this for the first time, splicing wires for the first time. I was incredibly nervous about cutting wires. not knowing which wires I was supposed to cut. Am I going to break the bike? Am I going to destroy something? Am I going to screw myself for installing this? Luckily, I was able to do a lot of research, figure it out, find the correct wires to splice into, and got it all in. Installing it and finding a easy place to house it where it's not accessible if someone was trying to mess with my bike was a little bit challenging. I had to move some things around, but the keyless ignition system itself works really, really, really well, and I would definitely get this system again if I was going to restart my bike. Now, the GPS system on this I'm not too crazy about. The GPS system, it works, it is functional. The apps, I'm not crazy about. You can set a geofence, so you only get a notification when the bike leaves the geofence, but I'm not too crazy about it. It's been kind of sketchy for me. There's been some times where my bike will literally just be sitting in my garage. I'll just get a string of emails saying that my bike is all over the place. The first time it happened, I freaked out because I thought someone stole my bike, and then I go downstairs and it's still sitting in my garage. So there's something weird going on between the GPS system and the satellites where it might think the bike is elsewhere than where it actually is. The other thing I don't like about it is you do have to connect it directly to the battery, so it is constantly going to be draining the battery, albeit a tiny amount of battery. But if you do have battery issues and you're not riding for a long time, this could be a problem for you. And nowadays with the market, when you have standalone GPS systems where you can just leave it in the bike and it's self-charging, or it charges, you can just take it out, charge it at home and just leave it somewhere. You don't have to mess with it too much. That might be a better route to go. GPS system, you still have to splice into more wires, connect it directly to the battery, and it is a little bit finicky. But for the most part, it does work. If I was asked, would I buy this again? Probably not. Probably just stick with the keyless ignition system. Now, spray painting the covers. So this may or may not count as a mod for in your eyes. Got the chrome off of the mirrors and the covers, spray painted some primer, and then spray painted some automotive black onto that just to black out the bike a little bit more. I'm not a huge fan of chrome, so that's why I did it. And it's held up really well. You can, if you really get close and inspect it, you can kind of tell it was an amateur job, but I'm okay with that. I'm not a perfectionist. And again, this whole bike is an experiment, seeing what works, seeing what doesn't work, and I think this worked. There are some areas where the paint is chipping off, but that's also areas where I did have to use some tools on it, so that makes a little bit more sense. So would I do it again? Sure. Mostly also just because I did not want to spend so much money on new mirrors just to replace different color mirrors and to replace the covers. So moving on to the Corbin seat. This was probably the third or fourth mod I made to the Scout. Personally, I thought the stock seat was okay. It's a little bit squishy for me. It's a bit thin for me. But I thought it was okay. I'd be able to ride a couple hundred miles and my butt would hurt, my back would hurt, but I was also riding for a couple hundred miles, so that's to be expected for, you know, at some point. No seat's going to be perfect for you. So I did end up getting the Corbin seat, and that's also because at the time where I used to live, I wasn't too far away from the Hollister Corbin factory, so I could just ride in, get the seat custom made for me, and then ride out with my new seat. So I didn't have to worry about shipping or getting wrong colors or anything like that. I was able to go in, customize everything from the get-go, and I really love this seat. I would absolutely buy a Corbin seat again. I bought it on my previous bike. I'll buy it for the next bike if they have it. So I have been very, very thrilled with all of my Corbin seats. They're very comfortable, incredibly durable. They look fantastic. And the fact that you can get them customized to fit you, I think that is fantastic and something that you absolutely need to do, given that that is your one of the primary ways that you are connecting with the bike outside of the handlebars. You're sitting on the bike, so it's a pretty important thing to get right. That's really going to influence your overall enjoyment for your ride. So I would absolutely pay the money for a Corbin seat again. Moving on to the wrap of the motorcycle. So this is something I did myself. Again, very amateur job, but I think it looks pretty good for what it is. And I would absolutely do this again. It was a lot of fun. It was a challenging product. It was a challenging process, and it was a bit of a steep learning curve. I definitely made a lot of mistakes, but this is one of the most satisfying things I've done to the bike that other people can't easily do, either themselves or they have to pay a pretty penny to get it done. So I'm really happy with it. It looks really great. I got a ton of compliments on the style of the bike and how it kind of ties everything together. And again, it's an amateur job. I was really just kind of riffing with it. I was just having fun and just seeing what worked, what didn't work. And, you know, there's definitely some parts, especially on the rear fender, where the wrap has started to come apart or it's scraped off or it rubs against other components or tools. And so it doesn't look as good as it used to. But I think it still looks really nice. It's really weathered well. And for the most part, it still held up really well. There's only a few small parts that didn't really work too well. So if you're curious about wrapping your bike yourself, I say give it a shot. If you got a sport bike, that might be a little bit harder because you got more angled pieces versus cruisers tend to be a little bit more longer and smooth. So give it a shot. I mean, you can get a small test piece, practice, see if it works, and go from there. Really customize your bike and make it your own. So I recommend it. I would do that again. Next, we got the Kuryakyn Riot Mini Floorboards. So this is one of my most recent videos that I put out, and I mentioned that I do like these. They're very versatile. They give you some more options in terms of foot placement, and if you install it correctly, that should help with some of the vibrations that you may feel. However, I didn't. I missed out on one of the pieces, and you do need the adapters to get these installed properly. But overall, I'm happy with these. I would definitely buy either something similar to this or just buy these again. I do like the floorboards a little bit better than the pegs, but if I'm really wanting to ride aggressive, I can definitely see how the pegs would be better. Now, the main consideration for these Kuryakyn floorboards is it does change your lean angle. For the Scout specifically, I have a 2020 Scout, and now if I lean too far on my right side, I'm not scraping pegs anymore, I'm not scraping floorboards anymore, I'm scraping my exhaust. So that is probably the biggest trade-off of all of the products and all the mods that I've done. This is the only thing that is actively damaging the bike if I am not careful. So that's really the biggest thing. So if I was to buy these floorboards again, I might find something that won't mess with my exhaust if I lean too far. Next we have the Rokform phone mount. So I'm a fan of this mount. I use it whenever I go on longer rides and I need directions and I need to see on a map kind of where I need to go at a quick glance. This thing is rock solid as long as you mount your phone properly. I had it on one day. I wasn't recording, unfortunately, but there was one time where you can see as an example how the Rokform mount is kind of straight up and down now, but I mounted my phone horizontally instead of vertically, so the magnet wasn't really there. I do not recommend that. The mount is not so strong enough to absorb enough of the vibrations that your phone will stay in place. So I actually had it where the mount was vertical, my phone was horizontal, and the vibrations were so bad that my phone came out of the mount and fell onto the road as I was riding. I actually had to pull over, and someone else saw my phone fly off of my bike. They pulled over, grabbed my phone, and I was chasing them down trying to get my phone back, and they gave it back to me. But it's just one of the things you have to consider. So you always have to align the mount with the phone, so that way the magnet really holds everything in place. So as long as you do that, it's rock solid. It doesn't go anywhere. Had no issues with it whatsoever. Next, moving into the Joker Machine brake and clutch levers. So I bought these not because I felt like I really needed to, but just because I wanted to get rid of the chrome stock levers that are on my Scout. So I wanted something black and something that looked a little bit cooler. So I bought these. I've been happy with them. Very easy to install with a few caveats, specifically on the brake lever. Getting the actuator out of the stock lever is a huge pain. So just be prepared for that. Would I do these again? Yes, I think I would. The only stipulation might be I might shop around for different types of products where you don't have to mess with the actuator, or maybe get some that are more adjustable. So there's a ton out there, but I've been very happy with these. I think they look great, and with the exception of the actuator, the install was overall pretty smooth. And last but certainly not least, the Progressive 444 shocks. This was probably the fourth or fifth mod I made to the Scout, and these are easy to install, and I think they are great. Now, compared to these stock Indian shocks, these are better, but with the type of riding that I do, to be honest, I don't know if they're really worth how expensive they are relative to what I had already gotten. They are better, don't get me wrong, but if money's no object, then go ahead and get these, or get a legend suspension, or get, you know, really high-end shocks. But for what these are, you know, it does improve upon the stock performance, but it doesn't come without consequences. So if I was to buy new shocks, I would probably get more expensive ones and get ones that have a higher range of motion and ones that are easier to adjust. These progressive shocks are meant to be toolless adjustment, so you don't actually need a tool. You can just crank these by hand, theoretically. I'm not strong enough, and I'm a pretty big dude. I like to think I have some pretty strong grip strength, and I could not get these to move a millimeter without using a tool. And you can probably see on these, I actually have to get a giant wrench to adjust these. I would wrap it in a towel, get a monkey wrench, and just crank it that way. Once I got it moving, then it was a little bit easier to move, but still very, very, very difficult to do by hand. So keep that in mind. They're marketed as toolless, but you still may need a tool or something to help adjust it on the fly if you have to adjust it while you're out riding or something like that. Just keep that in mind. But otherwise, I think they're okay. Would I buy these again? I think I would probably go for something a little bit more expensive that's a little bit easier to manage, and that does give me a larger range of motion for if I'm riding by myself or if I have a passenger, and I wouldn't have to fiddle with it as much. But overall, I'm happy, but it's a consideration of, if you're already spending the money, you might want to consider getting something a little bit more expensive, but a little bit better, that's going to give you a little bit more quality of life. So, all right, everybody, that is the list of all of the mods, I think, that I've done to the Scout. I've done a ton of work on this, and in a future video, I'll talk through how much I spent for all of this. So I spent a lot of money on my bike, but that's part of the experience, in my personal opinion. That's part of the experience, is working on it, modding it, changing yourself, and really customizing it for yourself, and making sure that you're truly happy riding your bike. So I spent a lot of money in this. We'll talk about that in a future video. But otherwise, everybody, have a great day. Leave any comments or questions down below. What are the mods that you have on your bike, and do you regret any of those mods? So as always, everybody, be brave, do good, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next one. Have a great day, and thanks for watching.